and it's called Chicana Lawyer. So young and so active in community affairs, so much energy and commitment, and so aware. You're a lawyer, a Chicana. You're on your way to success and happiness. That's what they say. But how could they know what I really feel? Pressure, demands, and expectations unreal. A Chicana, a lawyer, an animal so rare. I try to hide, but I don't know where. Criticism comes, I don't even ask. Too aggressive, too confident, or is it a mask? You turn people off with all of your talk. Take a softer approach, or the men will balk. I must be strong or I will never survive, but I'm tired and confused and I need time. Who am I really? I don't even know. A busy schedule, but no time to grow. My friends see my needs and give me support, but they too are busy and caught in the mess that constrains, but is labeled success. So around that same time that I became an attorney and kind of got on the public scene, there were a number of others in other professions, and we were all, I think, feeling the same kind of pressure and stress. So, okay, so now you're a lawyer, you should be able to do all these different things. Oh, now there's a MALDEF office. Well, we need you in Iowa, we need you in Ohio, we need you in Wisconsin. We need you to work on bilingual education. We need you to do this job discrimination issue. We need you to come and talk in Rockford. We need you here, we need you there. It was a difficult time, and yet, as I said, very exciting. To be a part of what became history-making, legal history-making, in terms of those redistricting cases that then allowed for Latinos to be elected in the city council and the state legislature. As I said, I grew up in what we call Chinatown. It was really one block south. And I didn't know what the word for it was at the time when I took Sociology 101 at BSB in 1970. I learned the term social stratification. Oh, okay, that's what it was. All I knew was the Chinese kept to themselves. The Italians owned and ran everything. African Americans were not allowed to walk on our block or go to events on our side of Wentworth. And Mexicans were allowed to live in the basements and back buildings of the Italian-owned or sometimes Chinese-owned buildings. And so we kind of knew what we could do and what we couldn't do, and didn't question it. I just, was a kid, and we just knew what you could do, right? It's like, okay, we can't do things because we live in the city. What does that mean? I didn't know exactly. In fact, in high school, one teacher told us that, and I was in honors classes, one teacher told us that we were never going to be able to compete against students from the North Shore. I didn't know where the North Shore was. But that statement stayed with me. So I always talk to students and tell them not to believe when people tell you can't do something. Worked with MALDEF as a legislative staff attorney. That was actually the third time I worked at MALDEF. Before that, I was an intern in San Francisco for a year and then opened the Chicago office in 1980. But even before the office opened, Judge David Cerda had been meeting and calling and writing MALDEF to open a Chicago office. And when he did, he said, we have all of these folks here. We have all of these Mexicans here who need that type of representation. We don't have the ability to do it as individual attorneys. At the time, there were 10 to 15 Latino attorneys in the entire state. So the information that Luis put together helped to make that argument, not successfully until 1980, but it was the beginning of that advocacy. We're here. Luis told us, we already knew it, right? Luis told us, here's the proof. We are here. Those maps that she had in her dissertation. These are the communities where we live in. Vilma Martinez and Graciela Olivares, high power women. I wasn't, at the time, I wasn't sure I was going to go to law school, but after I saw those two, I knew I had to go. that and the two attorneys that I was working with in Pilsen. I had started working as a part-time secretary for this law office, and that's the job that I kept when I came back to finish my degree here at UIC. And that was a huge impact because through that law office, I saw firsthand people who were being taken advantage of because they didn't speak English. At that point, there was no law requiring contracts to be translated, and so people were signing contracts for used cars or co-signing and then coming in and saying, but I don't have the car, they have the car. Yes, but you signed this. But they just said, they just wanted me to co-sign. I'm like, yeah, that's what that, that's what that means. You're on the hook for this. Or there was a infamous real estate broker in Pilsen named Joseph Sternett, who resold the same house to Mexican families over and over again on contract so that he could avoid the expense or the time needed for foreclosure. So people didn't have to go to get a mortgage. But if you sign on contract, that means the minute you don't pay, you miss one payment and the owner gets to take it back without all the process that you would have to go through if it were a bank through a traditional mortgage. So he was reselling the property over and over again. So people would be coming in and complaining that they had bought this house, they missed one payment, they lost the house. Yes, that's what happens. That's what the contract says, and that's what he could do legally. So there were all these things going on at the time. So on the one hand, the hope that things were going to change through activism, and on the other, the reality of what I felt, things getting worse in Pilsen. And it was in that period of time, 1972, that I decided I was going to go to law school.